So, like I said, every week we try to bring in someone special, someone who has brought soul back. And Tom, I'm really excited about this one. He's actually one of our biggest supporters, just like we are of his. And he's been our friend for a while now, and a diehard R&B fan, just like us. We have Bobby V. What's going on, Bobby?
I'm good, man. How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Doing good. So, Bobby, you've joined us on the podcast before, and we've talked extensively about, all things R&B, but we want to continue to do that. So I'm going to hit you with a question we like to ask all of our guests who join us on the podcast, and that is, what's one album that impacted you growing up, or, as you were progressing with your career? What's one R&B album that stands out to you?
I mean, that's a hard choice. I mean, because it's like I was riding my bike today and I was singing D'Angelo's first album. I think that dropped probably about 95, 96, and that album really impacted me. But even before that, I would have to say like a Babyface for the Cool in You. That album, I was like a kid, but that was probably one of the first R&B albums I purchased. Well, I had the tape of that. And I remember my mom used to play a lot of Babyface and the Isley Brothers and a lot of Anita Baker. I love Anita Baker, too. And I loved H-Town and I loved Joe. Those are, like, some of the people, like, that I really kind of learned how to sing from. So I listened to a lot of these artists, and I kind of took a piece of all of them and kind of made it my own. I got a lot of falsetto sauce from D'Angelo, and a lot of things from Babyface, and R.I.P. to Dino and H-Town and Joe. Like, those are guys I constantly listened to growing up and got a lot of and was very inspired from those people mostly.
So, Bobby, I love to hear you mention D'Angelo's first album, because that's one of my favorites too. Obviously, one of the most influential R&B albums of the 90s, that whole neo-soul sound. But, man, something we always debate, D'Angelo's second album, Voodoo. What did you think about that one?
Once I had to get into Voodoo. Voodoo wasn't like an instant album that I liked. Like I had to understand Voodoo. But once I listened to it and really like just rolled to it, I started to really appreciate and love it. The first D'Angelo album, it was like an immediate, every song, like, wow.
Yeah.
The Voodoo, I had to really get into it because it was more of like a live album. And he kind of, I think it was like he wanted to make the first album like that, but the first album was more like, it was live, but it was still like programmed live. The Voodoo album was a straight up live album that was just like, you really had to get into it. It was almost like a live performance. So once I really got into it, I appreciated it more than when I first listened. Because when I first listened, I was skipping a lot of records. Of course, there were some great ones like How Do You Feel and the single songs. But once I really just was like, you know what, let me really listen to this, like as a musician, because that's a musician's album. That's not really a consumer's album. Consumer has to get into the album. A musician has to sit and listen and kind of pick it apart and appreciate it for the musicianship of it.
Right. 100% agree.
Yeah, but Bobby, it's funny, and Tom, Bobby was mentioning he actually went and listened to the Voodoo album multiple times, tried to get into it. I'm telling you, if he put out that album in 2019 with attention spans the way they are, people would have listened to that album once and threw it out.
No, man, they would have frisbeed that in today's world. Today's music is just like, it's instantaneous. People, first of all, it's a million. Everybody is an artist now, so you have to compete with the whole world because everybody has a voice. Anybody could put auto-tune, and anybody could just make a record now. So the attention span for people now is almost like you have to think of the most clever, dumbest thing possible. It has to be clever now, but it also has to be a little dumbed down for it to really, to me, to resonate. Now, there are those artists that break through the cracks, like a Her or Daniel Caesar or certain artists like that that are blessed enough to hit people with that real soul and just really do them. But that also takes a label that believes in you, a label that's going to put the right money behind you to take you to that level. And most labels don't want to do that. They want you to do all the work, and then they'll jump in on the back end.
Right. It's interesting to hear you speak like this because you're taking us right where we want to go. You know, we always see you from time to time jumping in on our Instagram comments, chiming in about certain things about R&B and just speaking freely about the place it's in. And when we're disgruntled, you chime in sometimes. We like to see that, and we like to see that you uphold R&B for where it came from and celebrate where it came from and don't stand for where it's at now. So you're chiming right in on what we were thinking about.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I mean, where it's at now is, to me, where R&B is. I really don't think it's in a good place because now there are artists that are doing it, and I sign artists, and I have a label, Electrik Music Group, where I'm signing artists. But it's like when people send me somebody that's really, really singing and they sound amazing and they're awesome, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, I feel that. I'm like, okay, now what radio station is going to play her song or his song? Because it's tough, It's like if you're a real singer, or like a real musician or a real artist, you're not really appreciated. And don't get me wrong, I don't listen to a lot of rap. But the rappers, they get up and they'll just jump around the stage and hoop and holler, and people will go crazy. Oh, my gosh, their show was amazing. Oh, my goodness. An R&B artist will get up there, play the guitar, keys, sing their lungs out, and they not going to get the same praise as the rappers. And I'm not hating on rap. I'm just showing where the listeners and the consumers are now and where music is. And to me, that really hurts as an artist and as somebody that really goes out and really sings and really goes hard on the stage. It's kind of hard because, I was on the tour with the rappers and stuff, and people would be like, oh, my gosh, they had the best show, where, the R&B cats will get up and dance and sing and play instruments and, really go in, and they don't get the same praise as somebody that's going to get up and, just super turn up, So that's kind of where it is right now.
Right. It's cool, too, Bobby, because, and you're 100% correct, and I think one of the other issues with today in R&B is just, I was speaking to your boy Courtney when we were talking about Khalid, and he made an interesting point. He said, in 2019, Khalid is considered an R&B artist, but back in the day, no one would look at him as such, which leads to the question, what is R&B in 2019? And, when you look at an artist like Khalid, how do you place him in this genre of R&B? Do you view him as R&B?
I think he's R&B with a twist. I think his music is definitely R&B, but I think R&B kind of is it's an overall. It's I don't know, because I don't know where to put him. I would put him. He's more R&B pop to me,
Right.
Even though he makes R&B records. To me, his records are R&B, but I think he's surpassed R&B. Like, I think when you get to a certain level, you surpass the genre of music that you initially are in. It's almost like Jay-Z is rap pop, you know what I'm saying? Because pop is just popular music. So whatever genre you're doing, once you almost surpass, like Khalid has surpassed R&B, even though he does R&B music. He's an R&B artist, but with a pop feel. You know what I'm saying? He even makes soul music. Some of his music is soulful. But I feel like he kind of has surpassed, because to me, R&B music is almost like a cap, which is unfortunate. It's a cap on R&B music. Even though it crosses the genre lines sometimes, it doesn't really cross the lines like rap does, because I think R&B is more soulful, and you have to have a soul, and a lot of people don't have that soul within them to enjoy the R&B element. It's almost unexplainable in a sense, but yeah, I think Khalid he's R&B, but he's more on the pop side.
Yeah. Tom, it's funny because your definition of R&B, and Bobby, Tom has said this on numerous occasions, if it doesn't sound like Charlie Wilson, it's not R&B. Is that right, Tom?
And me, that's kind of true. I mean, and that's why I really can't put Khalid all the way R&B like that, because I feel like he'll go there, but he's not gonna go all the way there. You know what I'm saying? It's like you'll be wanted as an R&B singer. Now you'll want him to, oh please go hit this note right here that's gonna really touch me, and he'll just kind of, mellow it out. Which he's an awesome artist, and I'm proud of Courtney for finding him, and I'm so proud of Khalid's success. He's very successful, and he's where a lot of artists want to be. Like even myself as an artist, I want to be at the level that he's at, But I think that when you're at a certain soulful level, even like, let's use Tank for an example. Tank is an awesome artist. He's a real R&B artist to me. So it's almost like a Tank, he may not ever get to the Khalid level. Me, I'm an awesome R&B artist. I may never get to the Khalid level. Charlie Wilson, he's not going to get to the Khalid level, because I think that it's a level of soul that if you have this certain level of soul, it's kind of hard to really go to that level that crosses the lines and really, really crosses the genre. Of course, there is an exception to every rule, to where there are white people or mixed people or whoever that like R&B music. But when I speak of really crossing the lines, I speak of really, really crossing the lines like Khalid has. He's crossed the lines to where his shows is 90% white people there. You know what I'm saying? As where a Tank will do a show and there'll be 5% white people there. Or Charlie Wilson will do a show and it'll be 4 or 5% white people, if that, So I think that's kind of the level of, of where R&B is. Now, if you're blessed enough to, it's almost like if you want to go to that level, though, you can't be that soulful. You can't be very, very soulful. Because it's almost like you have to be, in order to enjoy and really, like we sitting here talking about D'Angelo's first album and Babyface and stuff like that, Babyface, I don't think he reached that level to even cross the genres. Now, he wrote records across the genres for like Boys to Men and, other artists that Tony Braxton's maybe that crossed the lines. But for him as an individual artist, he never really, I don't think he crossed those lines like the Khalid did, So really Khalid is kind of really, he really has kind of set, he's really taking R&B to another level. Because I'm trying to think of another artist. Can you guys think of another artist that does R&B music like that has crossed the lines to where their shows will be 90% white people?
It's definitely a rarity,
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. It's almost like you have to make the music a certain way in order for the others to really to grasp it, really to feel it,
Right.
Because sometimes if you go too soulful, a lot of people are not going to be able to understand that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting phenomenon for certain, Khalid, and you mentioned trying to reach the heights he's at. Bobby, what's interesting is that you reached heights this year that a lot of artists want to be at, and that was being part of the Millennium tour, which we were raving about. We were raving about that for months. Not only how much it sold out, how many shows you guys did, but man, just the caliber of shows you were putting on, and the guests you guys were bringing out. It was just like the most epic tour we had seen in a while, man. Just take us back, man, about that whole experience.
Man, that experience was amazing because, you know, I was on the Scream tour back in 2005, and throughout my life, I went on another tour like 2010 with Carrie Hilson, Keisha Cole, and The Dream. And no tour was like the Scream tour. But this Millennium tour was bigger than the Scream tour for me, and even just where I was at in my life. You know, as a musician, especially R&B singer, man, it's a series of highs and lows, you know, and that's probably with whoever in life, with whatever job you do. It's a series of highs and lows, and you know, at the time, I was probably in a low place. I wasn't in a good place, and then when they announced the tour and they announced that I was on the tour, I didn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And I want to shout out to my manager at Melinda Santiago for, you know, really making things happen and continuing to make things happen for me. But I was really at a low place. A lot of people don't know when I'm in a low place because I'm still happy because I have my family, my mom, my dad, my sister. I have a daughter, and you know, and I never really get myself too low or too high, regardless of what's going on in my life. My dad always taught me that don't go too high and don't go too low because, you know, you just, regardless of where you're at in your life. So me, honestly, I was in a low place, but I wasn't in a low place, but I wasn't in a feel good place like I am now, you know. So when they announced the tour, I have a beachfront property, and this year, the New Year's, I actually spent it at this property all by myself. I brought the New Year in this year all by myself. I was just praying because I believe in, you know, like the water and the power of God and all of these other things I believe in. So I really spent about a week at my beach crib, and I was by myself. I didn't want to be around anybody. I just wanted to bring the New Year in. And then we got the announcement that I was on the tour, and I was just like, wow, this is unbelievable. I don't really believe this until the first day. And I didn't believe it until I got the first, even when I got the first deposit in my account, I still didn't believe it. I didn't believe it until we actually, man, I'm telling you, I didn't believe it until we walked. I remember, I'll never forget this night. I walked in, and I remember walking in to go do a sound check for the first show. I think it was in Pittsburgh, and I remember Lloyd walked in, like, right behind me. And I was just like, oh, yeah, we're official now. This is official tissue. So I was like, you know, the tour really did a lot for my career. It did a lot for me, for my soul. It did a lot for my morale. And it did a lot for just, you know, me feeling good again about myself, you know. I had some trying times, you know, before that, like a year prior, 2017, and a little bit of 2018 was, you know, probably the lowest points that I've been in my life. So for me to end 2018 announcing that I was going on tour, and a major tour at that, we did probably like 41 or 45 dates, which was bigger than the Scream tour. And the Scream tour was probably like a month. This tour, or the Scream tour, was maybe a month and a half. This tour was probably 3 months. Like, we started in March, April, May, ended in June, and then did a final show at the OVO Fest. So, I mean, what the tour did was just open up a lot of new doors for me. It got a lot of people to see that I play keys, that I've been, really perfecting my craft. And I really went in on the show, and every night I really gave it my all, like it was my last show. And every time I perform, that's what I plan on doing. And, even though I was early on in the show, it just really boosted my morale and really just took me to a new height and to a new level. And, I'm so thankful for that opportunity.
Man,
amazing.
That's dope. Now, Bobby, quick question. How many white people were at that concert? What's the percentage there?
That's what I'm saying. The percentages was very low. It might have been
2
to 5%.
Wow.
But we sold out almost out of 45 days. We probably sold out 40 dates. So, that was real good. Just for R&B, that was good.
Right.
But, like I said, most of the artists that's on there were soulful artists. Like Mario is like an awesome singer. Like Mario is like probably one of the best singers that I've heard. He really sings very well, and he gives a good show. And it's a lot of good people that were on that tour, man. And it was just awesome, man. I had a great time, and I was actually thinking about that tour today. Like, man, I wish we could do that every year.
That's all. We were hoping. I mean, we were just hoping you guys inspired others to do it. And, especially my boy Kyle on here. Kyle, you grew up during that era. So what was your favorite part about growing up during the Millennium era with all those artists?
Man, it was dope. It was like the combination of the songwriting, production, and the vocals. It was like the whole package. And, Bobby, we all have our favorite eras. I mean, Tom grew up during that Drew Hill, Jagged Edge, and 112 era.
Mm-hmm.
And, you spoke on yourself. I think you're like from that Boyz II Men and Jodeci era.
Yeah. My group was from that area when I was in the group, Mista.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I think I hit a lot of. I've been blessed enough to be in a game to hit a lot of times, like the 90s.
Yep.
I got a chance to see Jagged Edge and 112, and then my first single came out in 2005. So I was blessed enough to get a chance to see like Outkast and Goody Mob and be around all of that stuff. So I didn't mean to cut you off. My fault.
No. No, I was going to say it was just so much great music that came out of that era. And, I just want to touch on this just so, we can highlight his work. But LaShawn Daniels, of course, passed away recently, and he worked with you on a couple of records, Turn the Page being the most notable. Just talk about working with him.
Man, he's such an awesome singer, man. That guy, like, I remember recording Turn the Page, and that's a high song. That song is like, the key that I'm in is extra high. And I remember trying to sing it, and LaShawn was just singing it effortlessly, and he wanted me to sing it just like him. I was like, man, hold on, man. I got to punch that. I can't sing that like you, man. So I just remember being in the studio with him and how soulful he is and how much of an awesome writer he was, man. Just like him and Rodney Jerkins, when they would work together, man, it was magic. So when we did Turn the Page, it was magic. And it's just sad that, he had to die. But we all gonna die at some point. It's inevitable. Yeah. So you just don't know when it's gonna happen. It could be from a car accident. It can be from you diving in the wrong piece of cootie cat. You know what I'm saying? Whatever.
Yeah.
So you just don't want it to happen so soon. And it was just sad that he died at that age. I think he was like 41, 42 or something like that. And that's pretty young.
Right. Yeah. It was really sad.
Yeah.
Bobby, let me ask you this. So a little earlier you spoke about being at a low recently in your career and in your life a few years ago. I was thinking back to when you were part of your group, Mista, in the 90s, and then it didn't work out. And it took some time before you got back into music on the major scene, put your debut solo album out. Was there ever a time in between there were you considered giving up or not continuing with music? Did it ever come to that?
Well, not at that time because I was still young.
Yeah.
And I felt like, man, I still got a lot in me. And I knew I was hot. I knew I had a good look, you know. I just really, at that time, I wanted to enjoy regular life, though. Because from the age of about 13 to, you know, Mista actually popping off, which I was about 15, we had a tutor. We were kind of sheltered. We were just in the studio, and we was just around kind of like the same people. It was just us, the group, had a tutor, and I didn't get to enjoy, like, being a teenager for real. So when Mista dismantled, I told my mom, I said, you know what, I don't want a tutor no more. That's boring. Like, and life was kind of boring. It was just like, because all we would do is just go do shows on the weekends and, you know, and that's it. And we would go to the tutor all week, and the tutor was boring. And then I had friends that were in school. They were going to proms and dances and playing sports, and I'm very athletic, so I want to play sports. And after a while, I remember that last year when I saw that Mista wasn't going to really be doing another album, or we lost our deal with Electrik. East West Electrik, I was just like, Mom, I want to go to regular school. I want to go back to my high school that because I went ninth grade, but then I left ninth grade early because we were traveling. We put the song out, and we were moving around. And then, that lasted 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. So I missed those years pretty much of high school. So 12th grade, I wanted to go back. And so I went back and, I played sports, played baseball, played football. I didn't make the basketball team because I wasn't tall enough. And, high school basketball was like the real deal. But I did get a chance to play baseball. I got a chance to go to the prom. I got a chance to do all the things that I really kind of missed out on, and which was perfect for my life. And then after that, I went to college and went to Clark Atlanta University, and throughout all of that, I was still working on music, but I wanted to get my degree though, and my parents made sure that I got my degree so that I could, make sure I had something to fall back on, and so I could really, because you know how the industry is, you just don't ever know. And I remember getting my first deal with Noontime. At the time, Noontime, they had a hot producer, Teddy Bishop. They had Jazzy Faye at the time. They had Sierra. And I remember signing with Noonie Lee, who was like Sierra's manager at the time. And that was, I felt good because they put a little money in my pocket. I was in college, and it was like all cool. And then I was working with top-notch producer, Teddy Bishop. He did, Just Be a Man About It. He did the Lil record, and he had some hit records. So I started to work with him, and, that's when I kind of felt like I was on my way. And that's when I kind of broke apart from the group because I was initially writing songs for the group, but nobody would really come to the studio. So I was just going and I was recording the whole song, and then I was just like, you know what, let me just do this solo thing. So I would go to the studio every night, every day in college, every night, and I'd be in there till like 3, 4 in the morning. And I remember the studio was a long ways from my parents' house, but I used to ride out there, and they would always wonder, why you come home so late? What are you doing? And I would just come home. It'll be 4 in the morning. Sometimes my dad would be waiting up for me to make sure I wasn't on drugs and all kinds of stuff. But it's like, man, I'm out here grinding, and, the grind really paid off. A lot of people think that they can just go to the studio one day or for a week or so, and it's just going to pop off. But they don't know what goes on and what's behind the scenes, It takes a lot. It takes you going to the studio every day to create a chemistry, to create a bond, to really find yourself, and a lot of people don't see that or get that. They think, oh, I'm going to just go here, work with this producer. I'm going to go here, work with that producer. I'm going to go here every now and then. and think that it's going to happen for them, and that's not really how it really works. Sometimes it does. Like I say, there's an exception to every rule, but for me, it was a continuation of constantly going to the studio and constantly making songs and constantly working with different producers, but really locking in with producers. Like, okay, I'm going to go work with this producer for 4 months. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times that chemistry comes from y'all. Y'all might not even be making no music. Y'all might be sitting listening to music. Y'all might be going to get some food. Y'all might be, that's really where the chemistry arises from. It doesn't really come from just, I got a song, come record it. A lot of times you got to sit down with people and be around them. They got to understand you. You got to understand them. And the best work comes that way.
Nice. So Bobby, we're almost out of time here, but just 2 more questions for you here. And we love hearing, the origin and your history, because we just spoke to Bob Robinson on the podcast probably about 2 weeks ago, and we're super close with Tim Kelly as well. And you three, you guys have such a dynamic chemistry when you guys all work together. I know Tim's doing his own thing now. Bob's doing his own thing. What's the difference when you work with Tim versus when you work with Bob?
I haven't worked with Bob individually, so I really can't, I've only worked with Tim, and, working with Tim, our chemistry is crazy. I lived with Tim before I came out. Tim brought me into his home. I went out to L.A. with a dream. I didn't have nothing. My parents was like, you done graduated from school. What you going to do? You need to get a job. And I'm like, oh, man. So my guy, Poon Daddy, who's Ludacris's right-hand partner, he took me under his wing and took me out to L.A., but he didn't really have nothing at the time either. So I was just kind of living like a nomad in L.A. trying to figure it out. I was living in the hood. I was living at different chicks' crib. I was just out there on the grind, living in and out of different hotels. And, a lot of people don't know that grind that it takes. It takes you to be uncomfortable to get to where you want to be. And that was a very uncomfortable time for me, too, because I really come from a good family that has everything. So it's not like I really, I went from that to living like a nomad. Mm-hmm. And it really worked out. But I always remember Tim was like, hey, man, you know where you staying at? I was like, no. He was like, man, you in the jungles, man. You know what the jungle is? You in the hood, bro. Man, come stay at my crib. And so I went and stayed at Tim's crib, and I think that's how we got that chemistry to make the slowdowns and the tell me's and to really create that first album. It came because I was living with him. I lived with him for almost like a year. And, at the time, he had this beautiful home. He had this nice big home out in Topanga Canyon with the nice pool in the back, and that was a fun time, too. Once he took me in, it was a lot more fun than me being a nomad out there.
Yeah.
So that was cool because I got a chance to live in a mansion in L.A. And, Tim, we would go out. We would go to the strip clubs, and we would just be out all day, and then we'll go to the studio, and then he'll come home and he'll create. He used to do the beats on the floor at his crib. He didn't even have like a chair. He had all his equipment just on the floor. He just lay on the floor. Me and him just listen to samples like, yo, you like this one? Yo, check this out, I did. Sometimes I'll be sleeping. He'll just be up doing beats. And, that was a great time for me. You always remember the grind, and that was part of the grind, and it paid off.
Nice. So, Bobby, last question for you, and appreciate you for joining us and sharing the history. And I do want to mention the one thing, and for those who haven't had a chance to listen to our interview with Bob Robinson, he just talked about that record Slowdown and how it just blew up in L.A. before it even hit the mainstream, and it was buzzing in L.A. So definitely want everyone to check that out. But Bobby, let's go. Let's bring it up to date with what you're currently working on. Of course, you dropped Electrik, and now you're working on some more new music. Just tell us what you're up to.
Yeah, I'm dropping a new single. I have a deal with SRG label through Universal Records, so I'm dropping a new single on the 27th. It's called Everybody, and it's an up tempo kind of song, kind of a hot. Kind of up-to-date R&B record. I'm still singing, but I think the music is still more updated. I still have that live instrumentation in there that brings it back to that real Bobby V. But this record, to me, is kind of like my Beat record. It's like, kind of more fun, more of a feel-good song. And it's just talking about, being in relationships and stuff. Everybody goes through it, whether you married or whether you just dating or whatever you may be doing. You just want to know if that person texting you good morning or if they texting good morning to everybody, And that's basically what the song is talking about. I plan on dropping the album next year, Valentine's Day, and the album is called Sunday Dinner. And I named it Sunday Dinner. Actually, my sister came up with the name, and I totally agreed with it because, on Sundays, me and my family get together. A lot of my friends come over, and we just have real conversations, whether it's about CNN, what's going on with Donald Trump, or whether it's about, relationships, love and relationships, or who you dating or what's going on. So I feel like the album is a compilation of things that happen at Sunday Dinner. And, I get a lot of my love, my joy, my peace, a lot of my foundation from Sunday Dinner and seeing my family, seeing my friends. So that'll be the newest installment of Bobby V. And like I said, the first song that I'm dropping is Everybody. Hopefully everybody will really pop off. But I do have some more R&B records that will, really be more and more R&B. Everybody is kind of a mainstream. I look at it as a mainstream versus a adult contemporary R&B record, which the label, they really want me to drop an adult contemporary record, but I don't feel, I want to feel good. I want people to be able to dance. I want people to be able to move, and I just like records that move more than I really like slow records. I like slow records for the album. They're awesome, but people want to dance and move in today's world, and I want to give them that music. I want to give them some feel-good music. Like most of my singles are songs that you could really dance to, and that's why they play them in the club. Like Turn the Page, you're not going to really hear that in the club. It was a great record. But, I like records that people can move and, that make women feel sexy to. And I think that that's what Everybody is. So Everybody will be out on the 27th. It'll be on everything, Spotify, everything. It'll be on Apple Music, Tidal, wherever you find music, it's everywhere.
Dope. Bobby, appreciate you for joining us on the podcast. And you're right, you've got versatility. You've got the records that are mainstream, but then Tom, he's also got Peach Moon. So let's give a shout out one time for the Peach Moon project.
I love Peach Moon, man. I love that project.
Moon. But you see Peach Moon, it got dusted in the wind, because it was like a real R&B, real soulful. A lot of people don't get soul. I noticed, I got soul. A lot of people don't got soul. So a lot of people don't.
100%.
A lot of people can't understand, and that's where the disconnection comes. That's when you go, either you're doing a pop record or you're doing an R&B record. See, it's like pop records, you don't really push the limits. You just kind of keep it very sing-alongy, and which is nothing wrong with that. But you keep them sing-along, but see, like R&B soul music, that's when the runs and the ooh, yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's when all of that comes in, and a lot of people don't have that. So that's the special thing about R&B, because that select few of people or percentage of people that have that soul, R&B is going to make them cry. It can make you laugh. It can make you feel different than any other genre of music. And that's the one thing that I do love about R&B. It can make you if it's the right track and they doing what they supposed to do on it, you're going to cry internally or externally. And that's what a lot of the other genres of music, they really can't make you do that. And that's why I really love R&B music.
Bobby, you gave us a great starting point for our next for the next time we interview you, man. We got a lot more to discuss, about everything R&B. So, but once again, man, we really appreciate you taking the time out. You always got our support. We're looking forward to hearing the new album, the new single, man. Just
man.
Doing it for R&B, man.
I can't wait till y'all hear to everybody because you guys are going to love it. I know y'all been hearing a couple snippets on the Instagram, but it's going to be, it's definitely going to be a song that you're going to be able to jam. I describe everybody as like a 2020 Jodeci record.
Oh, wow.
I got to hear this.
So I'm excited. I'm excited for the people to hear it, you know, whether it goes platinum or plastic. It's still good. To me, I'm not making music to go platinum. I'm making music for the people that love good music, love like chord progressions, and, you know, something that's going to touch your soul, you know.
Right.
And that's what I make the music for. And if it does very well, thank you, God. If it touches the lives of 1,000 people, thank you, God. You know, I do music because I love to do it. I don't do it because I want to make some money off of it. And I think that's where a lot of people get the game twisted. They do songs to make a hit record. And it doesn't always resonate. It doesn't come across the right way. Nobody's going to really feel it. If you do music that you feel and that you love, eventually folks is going to come around to it. But if you're making songs to make a hit record, you may make a hit record, but that'll be it. There's no connection.
Yeah.
And to me, 9 times out of 10, to make a hit record, it's not going to work because you're copying somebody else trying to make a song that's a hit right now. So you're trying to make a song just like that. So it doesn't really resonate because you don't have an identity. You sound just like this one, which is what most people sound like with the auto-tune. Everybody, like, you guys can make a song.
And we don't even sing. We can't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And y'all don't even sing. But you can make a song.
Right.
And you can and what's even sad is you can make a song and people will be like, oh my gosh, he's the best singer ever. Have you heard it? If they put the money behind you, the money behind you, people are going to be like, oh my goodness, they're the best. And then when somebody be like, yo, they sound just like the other songs. Then when you say that, you're a hater. You sound like, oh, you hate. Yeah. So it's just like I've gotten to the point to where now I don't even say nothing no more. I just say, oh, okay, you like that? Oh, cool. Well, that's cool. Because when you don't when you don't like something that everybody likes, then you're a hater.
Yeah. 100%.
So after a while, that's what you start sounding like. So it's just like better than not even say nothing at all. Like, you know what? Yeah, you got it.
Oh, man. You're not wrong, though. But on that note, man. Bobby, we must say goodbye. We thank you once again for coming through, as always.
Yes, sir.
And we'll talk to you again soon.
I appreciate y'all, man. Thank y'all for y'all support always, too.
Absolutely, man.
Always, too.